What's up, everybody? Happy Monday afternoon. Jade here once again in the virtual rock room. Today we're going to be talking to Tommy Vext of the band Bad Wolves. Just having a weird hair day today. So yeah, we've been doing this virtual rock room. We've talked to a bunch of our favorite bands, and so you guys can check out all of the links on our website, WRIF.com. Tommy, probably one of the quickest to be on board with this, like right on cue at 3 o'clock. Waiting for the connect. Hey, Tommy.
What's going on? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, just hanging out inside.
Yeah.
Like everybody else.
Yeah. Where are you at in the country?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay. All right. So
yeah.
So here in Michigan, we've talked to a lot of people that have been out in California, and for you guys, like, the weather is really nice. It was still snowing here in Michigan last week.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so the lack of sunshine has really affected us. But how are things going out in California?
It's going, I think considering the weather being an advantage, it's a little bit of an advantage. People are stressed out, and we're, I think it's just a very strange time. It's a very strange time. I have, there's a lot of concern, in recovery communities and the mental health community, because people all around the world who suffer from mental illness, addiction, alcoholism, and depression, I think being forced into seclusion can be a very dangerous thing. I've been seeing the global. I like research stuff, and I've been noticing like the global suicide rates are like really kind of going up in different places. And so, for me, I think what I've been trying to do is make sure that I'm reaching out to people, and I did a whole thing where I think the first couple of weeks, I was going on Instagram Live every single night and just asking if anyone had an emergency or was not okay. And then I would call them, and it's, I would just listen. I'd be like, hey, how are you? And they would talk. And I think like, stuff like this, what you guys are doing, having these interactive conversations, it helps people to like know that we're all in this together, and that there was a beginning. We probably passed through the middle already. There's going to be an end. And and that's kind of like how I've been walking through this whole situation, and trying to see every day, how could I be of service to somebody,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what we've been doing, is just trying to, especially in our local community, reaching out to people, helping out in the best way we can. And you really nailed it, saying like, we really are all in this together. There is no more separation of, elitists and rock stars, people just, that work normal office jobs. Like, no, everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, you have to stay home. And it's certainly a strange time.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys a question.
Sure.
How is what's the protocol over there? You have to wear masks if you go out to the grocery store, or you're doing so it's kind of seems similar. It's been frustrating because the World Health Organization and the CDC have given out so much conflicting information. I feel like it would have been better if the officials said, hey, we have no idea what we're dealing with, so maybe we should do this, and this. And every other day it was like, you can't do this. Don't touch your dog. Don't touch your cat. Like, oh no, animals are safe except for these tigers. And you're like, what? Like, and a cat got it in February in Belgium before anyone even made tests for this. We're like, none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
It's been difficult trying to get information from the media, from the mainstream media. And I think if at the end of this, if anybody needs to learn something, I think the networks need to understand that, the networks are polarized between, Democratic and Republican favoring. So you have CNN and MSNBC and then Fox, and everyone's like, they have the same story, completely different narratives. And, you know, this pandemic has been an example of how the mainstream media and the networks are not being responsible with getting the people factual information, rather than trying to use the negative situation that's going on for you know, political viewership. And it's just like, we just need information at this point. You know, we need to be safe.
That's how I felt, you know, because I switched between like news channels just to kind of try and stay up, but it's been hard. And a lot of the people that I've talked to, it's hard to keep up with it, and it's hard to know what is right. And frankly, for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, but I don't care about your political views. Like,
Oh yeah,
I just don't want to die. Like,
yeah. I mean,
know,
that's that's the reality. Yeah, like you know, like I don't think, you know, I'm asthmatic, but I don't know if I'm at risk. You know what I mean? I'm not a fearful person. And I've also had a near-death experience in my life. And so I don't actually like exhibit fear of death or anything like that. I just don't. But I'm afraid if my mom gets sick, you know, my mom's 71 years old and she lives in New York. I've had 14 people test positive out of family and friends and people I grew up with in New York City that tested positive for the virus. And it's interesting because I think like 6 of them actually had symptoms. You know, I have relatives that are in the fire department, sanitation, police force. Like, so they're not, these are essential workers that they have to engage with the public. And so they, you know, once my cousin Justin, once one guy in the firehouse got it, they all got it. Same thing with sanitation, same thing with the police departments, you know, and some people, you know, we don't know anything about this, but some people are, for all intents and purposes, they have immunity to it, and some people get incredibly sick. And so so it's just one of those things. Like, it's very hard for the population and the citizenry to know what to do when we're not getting factual information. And now doctors are now coming out in Colorado and California and Florida saying that we don't have cases. So that's also very jarring too. We're like, okay, well, how are these not, you know, we're getting reports on things that they don't coincide with the physicians who are on the ground dealing with the patients in the hospital. So that's another it's just a strange time.
It's very strange, and I think that, and I've talked to a couple other people about this, you know, this was happening back in the 90s, like say the year was 1998, 1999, it would be a completely different situation. And I think the technology is great because we can do things like this, and we can connect with people all over the world. And, you know, we've done some of these chats where people in other countries are joining us, and that's awesome. But at the same time, it seems like at points there's too much information and too many people are trying to get views on the internet and clicks on the internet, and they're not giving people factual information. And like I said, I just want to live. I want my family to live. You know, I want everybody to be okay from this. So we need to know like what is going on. And if we have to stay home, we have to stay home. I mean,
yeah. And I think you really nailed it with, the getting views and going viral and clicks and this, that, and the next thing. You know, I think that is one of the biggest issues with the media as well. These are mass networks, and they're controlled by very few people. You know, there's like 4 companies that own everything essentially, and they have a responsibility because basically, the news is so there's such a race, I think, with network television against the internet to have the information first. They don't check to see if the information is right, and then instead of, you know, recanting things, they don't want to lose credibility, so they just act like they were never wrong, and they keep there's been this, you know, I mean, we saw this during the 2016 election where, you know, the news was reporting that Hillary Clinton was going to win by an 80% landslide, and they completely faked those numbers for whatever reason. And I think, you know, and for whoever you voted for, whatever your political system is, a lot of people who were upset that she lost didn't vote because they were like, oh, well, it's already over. I'm not going to waste time out of my day to go vote, you know? So the fact that that actually happened and that Americans have forgotten that the mainstream media has been so neglectful with their journalistic integrity, is part of the main problem. Is like we need information. We don't know where to get it from. It's
Right.
some people look like there are some people even in the music industry. There are guys like in Death Punch who are like very close with people who are high up in the military, and they're and being in the entertainment business, you meet a lot of people. Not everyone, I have people who I'm friends with who are physicians and nurses and this. Not everyone has that.
Right.
So I don't like if, we some of us have the ability to procure information from people who are in the situation, but that's this smallest amount.
Right.
And then and it's not our responsibility to tell people, because they could get in trouble. So
Right.
it's very difficult when when people are scared, and I just don't think it's cool to keep people afraid and in the dark. You know what I mean? Because we are Americans are America.
Right.
We are the country. Like it's not the government. Yeah, it's like it's like I think some of these leaders and companies they'd like to burn the Constitution if they could. Because they honestly, like a lot of these major corporations, they don't give a shit about us.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's like Keanu Reeves said The Matrix was a documentary.
I didn't see him, but like that's like kind of mind blowing when you think about it. Like, whoa,
Mhm.
whoa.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's a weird time, man.
it
People are
is.
like,
It
"Yo,
is.
Tommy's getting real, like next level."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's hard because everyone is. The whole thing is we're alone together, but everyone's situation is different. So, I've got one of my best girlfriends. Like, she's living at home right now with her parents and her sister. So she's got a house full of people, whereas like I live by myself with my cat. And
Mhm.
so like it affects people differently. And she had said to me, she had made the comment like, man, I would do anything to just be alone right now. And I'm like, you need to like be careful what you wish for, because you have the option to go and be alone and separate yourself from the people that you're living with. I don't have the
Mhm.
option to go and see people. Like I can't
Yeah.
go and be around people if I feel alone. And so like you said, checking in with people and making sure that everyone's okay, like that's really the biggest thing that we can do right now.
Yeah, and I think so anyone who doesn't know, there are some things going on right now that we're getting testing available to us in California that's already available. There is a test that they are able to take a blood sample from you, and I think this might start to. I don't know if this is going to become the protocol, but I'm registering to get this done next week. It will tell you if you have the antibodies for
Right.
immunity specifically to the virus. And then I think that as we start opening back up, I think people who have the antibodies will be cleared. That's what the doctors are saying they're hoping, because there was a Sanford study. I just read the report. It's like it's like pages and pages and pages. And they tested thousands of people. And what they got back was there was a large percentage of Californians that had already had they had already had COVID-19. They got it before. They got it in February, because Wuhan has a flight to San Francisco, and
Okay.
What China did was they shut down all flights from Wuhan to the rest of their country, but did not shut down international flights from Wuhan to America. And so people who had already come encounter with the virus, they processed it and built up herd immunity already in these general areas, and it passed like the flu. And I think probably because California's climate is drier, there's more sun. I'm not a virologist or anything, but there's just certain things that are like, they're damp, cold, and wet is not good for human beings during a virus. So
Right.
since like places like Nevada, Arizona, they're not, if you look at the numbers predominantly, it seems like the real bad cases are in places where it's wet and it's cold, where the weather is affecting the human immune system already.
Right.
And so, we're going to, again, like this is just the research that I'm doing and trying to, see what's going to happen. And, try to make educated guesses, and because I don't really trust what we're being told. So, you
Right.
know, and hopefully that's going to be the answer, is that, you know, when we start getting better numbers of what it really is doing, because there's two doctors who and from Stanford University who conducted this experiment. One is of Norwegian descent, and part of what they did was they studied the case studies in Norway, where everybody was shut down in Norway, and they studied the coronavirus case studies in Sweden, and they determined that so Sweden did not do a lockdown. Everyone in Sweden is just going about their lives as usual.
Okay.
They did absolutely no lockdown. They were like, we are not shutting down our economy for this. We do not buy into this. Norway said, we're going to shut down. You know, we're scared. You know, they're following UN protocol. They're following World Health Organization protocol. Now, their economy, as our economy and many other economies, is suffering. Their death toll is exactly the same, if not more, than Sweden, who
Wow.
has not shut anything down. So,
Interesting.
and this stuff came out. What's today's Monday? That report came out Friday. I saw it Saturday morning, and they did a
Okay.
press conference about it. And so, you know, so we'll see what's going to happen. You know, like it's, you know, there's just a lot. It's just
It's a lot. It's a lot, and I think that some people are really good at going through the information and reading and getting educated. And it's overwhelming, though. And I don't think there's anything wrong with people who are like, listen, this whole thing is overwhelming, and reading about it and seeing it day after day, it becomes too much. And that's totally understandable, which is why it's great to find other things, although it's hard being at home to find other things to do. But like you, for example, like what have you been doing other than obviously educating yourself on what's going on? But what are you doing to stay busy?
I mean, you know, the past couple months have been rough. You know, we came home from being, you know, we were in Europe February, mid January through the end of February, and like people on tour got sick. I got the flu after we played Italy, and I was sick for 3 days. And I had to see the doctor, and they gave me medication. And the last show in Budapest, my symptoms were so bad that I actually had to call the studio in LA and have them send vocal tracks from the album so that they could be played to back me up, because I lost my voice and we didn't
Yeah.
want to cancel the show. And I came out and I said, and I had a very sore throat, and I said, hey, just so you guys know, I'm sick. We were supposed to cancel. We didn't want to cancel. There's going to be, you know, we're going to have, you know, fake vocals in the mix. I'm sorry.
Right.
But we came here to play, and and it was the first time we've ever done that before like that. And nobody cared. And the doctors gave me prednisone, which is an asthmatic and pneumonia steroid. And I went on stage, it knocked it out. I coughed up a bunch of stuff. I got on a plane, I flew back home, and I had no symptoms after that. You know, and then and then John came home, and John got pneumonia 3 days later. So, you know, it's like, I know we keep talking about this, but it's just like, these are the scenarios of the things that we've been dealing with, and coming home from that tour on such a high, playing with, like, Megadeth is a band that it's like, that's like a bucket list. You know, we've obviously, so is Five Finger, but we're so close to them, and they're like our family, you know, and I've sang for them, and they're like my brothers, and, you know, they've taken us on like they take us on a world tour at this point over 2 years. So, but being with them and going out and, like, you know, hanging out with the guys and, you know, going around shopping and goofing off and, you know, doing our thing, it was great. And we got really close with the Megadeth guys, and it was really great to see, you know, Dave Mustaine coming back from beating throat cancer and going right on tour. It was a very inspiring tour. You know, everybody on that tour has a story now. You know,
Right.
whether it's me or Dave or Ivan, and there was just a kind of vibe, and it was probably one of the most fun tours of my entire life. So we came home from that, and we were like, okay, we've been going at it relentlessly. We're gonna have 5 or 6 weeks off, and then we were scheduled to go on tour with Hollywood Undead here in May. including shows that we would be opening up from with Metallica headlining and the Deftones and Disturbed and all that just got fucking taken away. And so then we didn't know what to do. So once this whole thing happened, I was like, all right, well, you know, we have crew guys, we have, you know, we have people, we have like 12 employees.
Right.
And we're like, all right, we don't know how to pay these guys. So what you know, people have kids and wives, and so it's my responsibility as a business owner to keep business going. So what we did was I dug into the archives and found I went through all of the unreleased music. And so we have, I think there's like 15 tracks, and some are originals. And I had done, I did like a full album of covers that I just did. I do that over time. Like whenever I'm home, if I like a song, that's kind of how Zombie happened as well. Is like, I have to the way that I get better at singing is singing songs I can't sing and learning them. And then I go in the studio and record them. So we had all this stuff, and I was like, okay, is never coming out. It was never meant to come out. We're not going to put out like a cover album or anything like that. Like, you know, it doesn't make sense. So what happened is I called management and I was like, hey, I have this idea. I want to do a live concert and stream it like on a streaming site. And they're like, well, we have a relationship with Patreon. We really like them. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, so we figured out how it worked. So we announced we were going to do Bad Wolves Live in Quarantine. And we did on the first Friday of April, I think it was, we did a live performance. So we went into Howard Benson's studio, and where Hailstorm records and Skillet, and we just, you know, and Hillary Duff, and they let us use the studio, and we filmed it, and we the mix and the video went straight to Patreon.
Yeah.
So we had I think we had 600 or 700 people, you know, pay to view it, and they became members of the Wolfpack Patreon. And now we have like a fan group on Patreon, and now it's doubled its number since the first week. I think we're at like above 1,200. And what we do is every Friday we release a cover and an original that no one's ever heard before. So and that's where it lives. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so the you know, we're doing a lot of cool things. So basically we can't, I canceled meet and greets because unless it's for radio stations and it's free, I don't like it, because I don't like I'm one of those people, I get a lot of flack for this, and I get a lot of like people looking down their nose at me in the industry because they don't like this, that I'm very outspoken about it. I don't believe that it's okay to charge people hundreds of dollars to shake my hand and then kick them out. And I don't like it. And I'm from the hardcore scene. I grew up in CBGBs. Many people that listen to your show probably met me, because when I get off stage, I either shower or I don't even do that, and I just go into the crowd and I shake people's hands and I take pictures with them. Yeah, because that's an expression of my gratitude for the fans that support our music. I've been a musician for 24 years. You know, I'm not a little kid. And it really is important to me. And, you know, and I've learned this from guys like Zoltan and Chris Cale, who they're just they're with the people. You know, there's a lot of bands like that. There are guys like the Deftones and Disturbed, and it's about this thing. And I want to know these people. I want to they affect, every time someone buys one of my records, you help me pay my mother's rent. And people need to understand that. I don't buy flashy cars. I don't do that. I don't have the money for that. I take care of my mother. You know, my mom's retired, and I was a pain in the ass as a son, and I'm not anymore. And now, so that's why that's important. And so the reason I'm bringing all this up is all the patrons who are on our Patreon are, for the next year, will get free meet and greets. So anybody who is just registered on the fan page as a patron is going to be, once we start going back on tour all over the world, wherever you are, you're going to get a voucher for a free meet and greet. And so, you know, it's I think it's $5 or $10 a month. You get to, you're going to get music videos, you're going to get everything first. probably 2 weeks in advance. We're putting a movie out. We recorded a movie starting in 2018. I'm re-editing it and rechanging it, and we're adding music videos into it and all that other stuff. And basically, we started a little community, and it's cool. It's like we get to do things like this. There's live streaming, and we do Q&As, and
That's
it's
awesome.
like it's more condensed, because when I go on our socials, there's so many people. Like even now, there's like 91 people. That's not too bad, but when we do it, sometimes there'll be like 400 people, and I can't answer everybody. So
Right. Yeah, it makes it a little bit difficult, but doing that is great, and it's so timely right now, because do you think that you would have done some of this stuff had not been in the circumstance that we're in right now? Like, that was a big reason that we started doing these Instagram live chats, was because while we're all sitting at home, you guys are all sitting at home, now's a great time to do it. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, we probably should have just been doing this the whole time, because this is a great way to interact with our fans.
yeah.
Doing it. So do you think that some of the things that you've done you wouldn't even have thought about had this
These aren't
pandemic
things. I think that I think it's about time management. I think that for us, we're constantly busy. So when the band isn't, so when the band is not touring, I still work. So I either work on albums, or I work as a counselor, a drug and alcohol counselor. And so I get calls and consultations. Sometimes I have to do, I'll have to go and, sit with a family and consult with them about the best way to help convince the family member that needs help that they should go to help, and call,
Right.
Sometimes I've done interventions, and sometimes I just have to get a guy and get on a plane and make sure he goes and checks in. And that's my job for the day, and I fly back, and so this is just like stuff that I do. That's what I used to do before the band. And so when we have time off, I don't really like sitting around. So I either work or I go into the studio. And so, right now, we have an opportunity, like only one person, we're writing a record right now because we are on downtime, but only one person is allowed in the studio at a time.
Right. Yeah.
So we have to be and we're in separate rooms recording. There's the master control room, and there's a separate room, and we record in there, and everything has to there's like Clorox wipes. We wipe, everything gets wiped down, and that's how we're working, And so I tracked a bunch of songs over the past couple weeks, and now I'm taking 2 weeks off, and John and Chris and Doc are all recording. Very sadly, Doc's mother passed away about 2 weeks ago, and so. Yeah, it's just, this year has been kicking everybody's ass, man. It's but that's the thing with him. Like he's one of the toughest guys when it comes to getting work done. He has one of the best work ethics of any guy I've ever been in a band with. And he handled her affairs, and he emailed everyone and said, "I'm ready to go to work." And we were like, okay, cool. And so
Right.
I'm sure, I can't wait to hear what he's been working on, because I know he's got a lot of emotion. He translates his emotion through his instrument in a way that makes him an incredibly special human being. So this record's going to have a lot of things. The new record is going to be filled with a lot. There's a lot, because we've gone through,
Yeah.
all of us, we've gone through a lot.
Yeah. Well, and putting together an album and writing a record while being separate, is that different from what you guys normally do? Like, if you guys are sitting down to write a record, is there a lot of collaboration between you guys? Like, now that we're all separated and you can't necessarily sit in a room with somebody, how is the process a little different for you?
Well, the process is the pre-production process is similar, because there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So for us, I know that John and Doc and Chris, they like to get their ideas out and have a full idea before bringing it into the group. Same thing with me. Sometimes I come to the table and I'm like, here's the song. Like, here's how it is, and make it better. I don't know how to make it better, but
Right.
don't change the chorus. I sang it the way I want to sing it. Just work around me.
Right.
And then I get the, and they're like, okay, yeah. And then sometimes, like John and Doc have great vocal hooks and stuff, and everyone is creative. So they're like, hey, this is a song. I want to talk about this. That's been something me and John have gotten that made us grow closer on the second record, where he was like, I want to express these emotions about this in this song. And he's not necessarily a lyricist. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I start writing about, I'm like, tell me the story about your experience. And then I write about,
Okay.
I turn his story, I tell a story of the feelings, because it's very relatable,
Yeah.
and so it's, yeah, not every song that we write is about my first person experience. Everybody in
Right.
the band has like a bit of their soul etched into every word on every
Yeah.
record.
That's
So,
really
and
that's a very interesting process, and it seems like it's working out for you guys. Do you have like a timeline on when the new album's going to be out, or everything's just kind of happening right now?
I don't think the new album is going to be out till next year. I mean, we still have, Sober is going strong at radio, and we're going to release another single from Nation called Better Off This Way. We're in the process of discussing whether there's going to be a duet version, because the album version is just me.
Okay.
But the song is like kind of, a lot of people are familiar with Hear Me Now, is how like a relationship started out with two people being friends. And then, Better Off This Way is about realizing that it was better off just as friends.
Right.
And it's like a bookend of that story.
Yeah.
So we've talked to a couple people. We actually had several female vocalists audition for it, and then somebody kind of came out of the woodwork that is like someone who we're huge fans of. So we will see if that works. I can't really say, because it's not.
I know.
If it doesn't happen, I'm gonna look like a goon,
Right.
But so we're working on doing that, and then I don't know how realistic it is to hope that the Disturbed Stain tour will happen. We have not been officially told that it's canceled.
Right.
And so, and David and his wife Lena are very good friends of mine for a very long time, and I think that right now everyone's just waiting. I saw that Metallica and My Chemical Romance are headlining Aftershock this year, which is in October, and that's in Sacramento. So that's a good sign. And California and New York are two states that are probably will be the last to open.
Right.
Just mostly because of the political leanings of the individual state governments.
Right.
But so if they're talking about a festival happening in October, then it is possible that we will be back on the road, and things will start getting to normal. And, I'm sure there's going to be like weird protocols put in place and things that we have to do to take care of ourselves and each other. But, it's like, we're going to be okay. And,
Yeah.
and we're being, it's like the reality is that a lot of this fear mongering that's been done on the television is a way to control. And I think that the people who are doing this don't actually realize the anxiety that it gives the people. It's unnecessary,
Yeah.
And we need information, and we don't need terror,
Yeah. Well, and that's like a big thing my dad and I were talking about. The level of stress. Like, stress really affects your body in
Your
so
immune
many ways
system.
that it's like almost that invisible killer, because people don't realize that being stressed out can cause strain on your heart, and if you have heart issues, it just elevates all of that. And I think people's stress levels are like at an all-time high right now, and
Yeah.
it's hard to say like, hey, relax, we are going to be okay. But then there's always that part in your brain where it's like, well, are we going to be okay? And you got to have a little bit of faith that we will, but at the same time,
Listen, I'm going to say something very controversial right now.
okay.
The United States citizens is the largest armed force in the world. Because we have the Second Amendment, we have more Americans, law-abiding Americans, legally registered, have more firearms than any other nation in the world. Okay? So if it comes down to it, they're not going to be able to put us in a police state and imprison the people. We're never going to go to that. So a lot of people think A lot of people are going to that place that's the worst case scenario. It's not going to happen. We also have an impeccable, integral military system in this country, and they're not going to listen. They're not like they're it's already happening in Texas. The governor tried to make the police enforce that if people were outside, they were going to get $1,000 fine, and every branch of the Texas police stood up and said, "No, we will not. We will
Right.
not. No, we're not going to. It's people are out of work. We're not going to give them $1,000 fine for being outside.
Right.
Fuck you."
Yeah.
You know, so we're going to be okay. And it's going to come down to everyone, you know, being calm, not panicking, not jumping to conclusions, and taking care of ourselves and one another. You know, that's
Right.
I always say this: Americans are what makes America great. That's it. It's not politicians. It's not companies, corporations, businesses. It's not economic prosperity. It's you know, our country is built on the foundation of the pursuit of happiness, you know, and so, and we, you know, in times like this, we have to find happiness in the pursuit,
Right. And
you
I
know.
think that the big idea too of all of us like joining together, and we need to help each other out, and you know, think of other people instead of just ourselves. Like a big issue that we've been having here is like at the stores, which our grocery stores and everything are still open. You know, they had recommended people wear gloves, but then everyone was just like throwing their trash gloves all over the parking lot of the grocery stores. Like, guys, like, think about everybody else. Like, if you're using a glove that you've used to protect yourself and then thrown it on the ground, like, you're not really helping out. Like, you're really just making you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
everybody
these are
else
things.
do things together.
So the observation of these things is that these are passive aggressive subconscious responses to social discontent.
Right.
This is to be expected. Look, people aren't looting, they're not rioting, they're not this. But you know, it's like when you're, you know, if you get drunk and thrown out of a bar, you might go piss on the side of the wall. And like we're being treated like, I mean, dude, our government officials are treating us like pieces of shit. They don't. It's no one is doing a good job, and that's my opinion based on the information that I continue to gather from people who are on ground zero, who are living in it, whatever cities they are. And there are other countries who are doing a better job. Um, and you know, hopefully our government gets their shit together, and the media gets their shit together, and they stop bullshitting us and fucking us around because it can't last that long. You know, they can't, it's
Right.
only going to be, they can only do this for a matter of time till people are like, well, you said there were going to be millions and millions of people dead. There's not millions and millions of people dead. You said it was going to be like this. You said it was going to be like that. You said this, you said that. Nothing you said over the past 2 months has come to fruition. So it's time, you know, there's going to be, the people will stand up and they will call for a response, and hopefully the president does the right thing, and then every in particular, you know, government, every state government responds to the needs of the people, you know.
Right.
And that's what it's going to be. And yeah, our bodies are made to fight this stuff. We have been biologically engineered to survive thousands and thousands of years. We survived the Black Plague, the bubonic plague. We survived the Spanish flu. We survived all these things in archaic times where they didn't even know they had to clean needles before using them between different people. When, you know, or like they were putting leeches on people in the medieval times to pull the spirits out of them. And humanity persists. We're going to be okay as a race and a species. But that's the big thing to think about, is that this thing completely, if you know, whatever your political system is, like whether you're, you know, your religion, your race, none of that shit fucking matters anymore. Like none of it matters, because the virus doesn't care. So why should we? You know what I mean? So I think, you know, I think this is another example of how we need to all look at each other as like brothers and sisters, and like how are we supposed to, you know, combat this? How are we supposed to get the right information? And how are we supposed to rebuild the economy? It's going to be on us. It's
Yeah.
our responsibility to rebuild our economic prosperity after this. And that's another reason why this persistent lockdown, it can't last much longer, because we have to get back to work. They're not making people shut down rent. They're not stopping the banks from collecting, mortgage on their mortgage loans. I
Right.
mean, it's robbery. There should be absolutely no rent. I don't care who you are. I
Right.
don't care if you're, I have friends who are landlords who own properties, and one of my girlfriends in Australia, she owns condos in a complex, and she's okay. And she told the people who rent from her, please don't worry about rent until after this is over.
Right.
And the other people who owned condos in the same apartment building, they were from China. They're furious
Yeah.
because
Well,
she
there's
did
one
that. The
person
whole
not,
building has to accommodate that.
right.
But that's what it's going to take. It's going to take people who are willing to do the right thing. Like I'm losing money because we're still paying people. People are on salary. But what am I? That's okay. I'll figure it out.
Right.
Like we have a responsibility to continue to take care of each other so that we can all eat and live and sleep and keep going. We need to keep going. So, for everyone who's feeling despair or anxiety, don't quit before the miracle happens.
Right.
You know?
This too shall pass, which is, a lot of saying. But in the meantime, a lot of people are asking, since we are, hanging out at home, what kind of music have you been listening to? Have you been watching any shows? Other than, obviously it sounds like you're staying really busy with the music stuff, but
Yeah, the only thing I watched was like I watched Tiger King, which is like the most ridiculous show.
yeah,
It's so ridiculous.
yeah,
But that's good for a laugh. But I've honestly, I've been watching a lot of these, I've watched a few conspiracy theory documentaries because, the fall of the cabal is pretty interesting. And there's another one called Out of Shadows, which I normally wouldn't look into that stuff, but the guy who created it is a neighbor of my best friend's father. And
okay,
he used to work in Hollywood as a stuntman, and he uncovered all of these. They really put on blast the Hollywood elite pedophile ring, and it's like I'm not supposed to talk about this is a very taboo, touchy thing,
right,
and a lot of people, it's so horrendous. People don't believe that it's real. But my ex fiance was actually a victim of childhood trafficking, and her mother sold her to the head of what was a previous head of one of these studios, when she was 15 years old, and she was sexually abused and had Stockholm syndrome and was taken care of by this man who
right,
and she spent a long time after in therapy trying to disassociate from what and understanding what had happened to her was
right.
actually child seduction and child sexual abuse. So I am inclined, because I literally had someone in my life who I loved and experienced this. I know that I'm I get it. I know, it's
Yeah,
real. So how nefarious it is and how widespread and how crazy, that I don't know. Um, but there's there's a serious issue in this country and in other countries with sex trafficking that it's grossly overlooked because it is so. Any normal human being, the idea of what these people do is, you can't even fathom it.
yeah.
So
Scary, for sure.
yeah. So I again, these kind of documentaries, I take them with a grain of salt. I watch things here, and I'm just I'm watching physicians giving their accounts of what's going on the ground in the cities that they're in all across the world, to try
Right,
to better understand the severity, because the news will not let them speak.
right,
So
right.
yeah.
If you're looking for a distraction or from all of that, or if you have any suggestions of music, Like, what are you listening to other than writing your own music? And is there anything like off the top of your head that you've been really into lately?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the new Ginger record called, I think it's Macro. And Ginger is a Ukrainian metal band with a female vocalist. They kind of, the band sounds like some kind of like a Periphery Meshuggah influence gent
Yeah,
band.
they were
And
supposed to be on a couple of the big festivals here in the United States this year, so that's
yeah,
awesome.
I keep missing them. I really want to see them, but they're great. Like the singer sounds like if Gwen Stefani and Randy Bly had a kid.
Yeah,
You're just like, what is this, you know?
yeah.
So that's a really good band to check out. What else am I listening to? It's just, I'm trying to think. I'm just like, I've been going back. Honestly, we played Dime Bash as a band in January, and we played. So Dimebag from Pantera, his widow Rita called me and said, "Hey, would Bad Wolves want to play Dime Bash?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, but on one condition." She's like, "What?" I'm like, "We have to play deep cuts, like songs that nobody has heard in 20 years."
Yeah,
So yeah, so her and Jose set it up, and then we came out and we played Sandblasted Skin, which is like a really heavy song. I don't know if you're familiar with their catalog
yeah,
of the Great Southern Trendkill, and then we went into Use My Third Arm, and it was probably like the most fun I've had on stage in 20 years. And then I went back to Far Beyond Driven and fell in love with that album. So
yeah,
I've been listening to that. I've been listening to the new Korn record, the Nothing. It's not that new anymore, but it's the
yeah.
most latest.
Right.
And it's also like a return to form. It sounds like if Follow the Leader had a baby with the debut album.
Yeah, I really like the new Korn album. It's definitely one that's been on the top of my list that I've been going back to, for sure. And I know a lot of people, like you said, your sober's been kind of climbing the chart in the radio world, but definitely a lot of people are on board with you guys. So it's a bummer that the shows got canceled, but
Yeah.
it's really cool, the music community and people that love, music and bands, and you've certainly got a great fan base. It's really cool to see everybody kind of talk about, like, oh, have you heard this song? Did you check out this video and the meaning behind this? And it starts like a dialogue that kind of distracts us from sitting.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what the song "Sober" as a song is. There's been so many bands that write songs about addiction, and because I think alcoholism and addiction is a widespread problem, and it really affects creative people as well. But I've never heard a song that talks about drug addiction and alcoholism as a family disease in a whole. And
Right.
for every person who's an addict, there's however many people that love that person that also have to suffer knowing that they might die, that they're stealing or getting locked up or ruining their life. And the video, there are two videos. There was a remake video that we lent our footage to for a movie Snow Babies that's coming out because that's like about the opioid epidemic with teens. But the original music video, the treatment I did with Nick Peterson, who also did Wrong Side of Heaven by Five Finger Death Punch. Every character in the music video is someone I really know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's someone that I've known in recovery, and I wove their inspiring stories into the music video.
That's really cool.
And it shows the families, and then they go to rehab, and they and there's like the whole scene where we're in the rehab, and then they see their families afterwards, and there's a happy ending to it because I think it's especially it's an old story, the story of Kurt Cobain and Scott Weiland, and there's just I could go down the list, and it's more I think it's important to show people that recovery works, and we've seen it. You see, like, one of the people I'm like so proud of is Ivan Moody, because we've known each other for 14 years, but we drank together before I was sober, and I've been sober 11 years. You
Yeah.
know, we've been in fist fights together, like in LA. Like I'm from New York, he's from Colorado. We just get it shot, you know, just like
Yeah.
getting in the mix. And you know, and then to see him, his life change, and for him to like get back to who he is, and how much he inspires other people. And dude, I witnessed a miracle in that man, and I saw it, and it was like it wasn't easy, and he had to do a lot of work, and it was painful, and it was not easy, but he committed, and his life and his band and his family and his kids and everyone is better now for, you know, the decisions that he made. And that's, to me, that shows character, that shows
Yeah.
tenacity, that's strength. And that's an example of what happens when together, you know, no matter what we're going through, whether it's addiction, alcoholism, mental health illness, you know, whatever it is, when we wrap around each other and we like take each other by the arm, we, you know, we walk out of hell.
Right.
If you're going through hell, just keep walking, you know?
Yep. Yep. And it's always great to have people that relate to you on that level. And I know that a lot of people are commenting right now that that song "Sober" and the story that you just pulled behind it is really inspiring for other people. Thank you for that on behalf of, you know, all the people that are reaching out and saying that it affected them. We'll wrap this up here in a minute. Just one last question for you. For people out there who are, you know, obviously we've talked a lot about, you know, everything that's going on right now, but for anyone who's struggling out there or that like needs something positive to kind of get them through the day, like what advice do you have to give to people?
I think that, you know, depending on, I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. And what I try to do is, as soon as I wake up, I set my intentions for the day. One thing I do is I put my cell phone under my bed. So I can't check it and go on social media. I have to get out of bed and
Yep.
then and get on my knees to get under the bed to get my phone. And then when I'm on my knees, I like, well, since I'm down here, I'm gonna pray to the universe, and I ask the universe to, like, you know, remove fear and remove anxiety and remove any, if I have anger or sadness, please make, you know, help clear my thoughts and take away my negativity so that I'm present to be of service to someone who may need me. Because if I'm thinking of myself and my own bullshit, I'm not available. Somebody might need me, and I don't know who's going to need me. You know, and there's been a lot of times in my life where I needed others, and I still need others, and so I have to keep that flow of energy going. And then at the end of the night, before I go to bed, I try to make a list. Like, did I screw up? Do I owe anybody an apology? Did I lose my temper? Was I rude? You know, just my own character defects. Um, you know, could I have handled the situation better? And then I don't really think, you know, I don't like cast into morbid reflection over it or stress out. I just make a note, and then the next morning I ask, that's the thing, to please, you know, help me be conscious to not be rude, or help me to have patience, or help, you know. And so when I'm like, when I'm actively doing that, I mean, even the guys in my band know when I'm doing personal inventory, my attitude around everyone around me is so much better, and everybody's lives are better when I am just not doing anything for my spiritual health. You know, I can be prone to depression, or I can be in a bad mood all the time. And then if I'm in a bad mood, I don't really keep it to myself. And then if I'm bummed out, and then you know, other people might be bummed out. And so, you know, living on a tour bus with 12 or 15 other people has taught me that I am responsible for my own attitude, my actions and my attitudes. And that's all that we have. That's all that anyone has control over. So I
Yep.
can't control the government. I can't control the news. I can't control, you know, what this person says. I can't control what people say about me on Blabbermouth. I can't control if this person's going to get sober. I can't control anything.
Right.
All I could do is, like, you know, this guy I knew, this guy I knew, he was sober 30 years. His name was Jim, Big Jim, and he got cancer. And I used to go and speak for him at this place, at a halfway house where men just got out of prison, and they really liked me there. Like, they got, because I have tattoos, and like I'm in a band, and like some of the guys knew me from some of my older bands. And it was he got cancer, and I went to go see him speak, and he said, it was a Wednesday night, and he was like, He's like, listen, he's like, I have two options. Like I have cancer. So I can have cancer with a good attitude or a bad attitude. And
Right.
he died the Sunday after.
Oh man, that's a shame.
But yeah, but he's, every person who heard him say that will never be the same.
Right.
You
Right.
know, that's how it is, and so like a lot of these things, the lessons that I learned from people who have walked a real walk, I'm just here to repeat it so that other people know.
Right.
This was years ago. This is some years ago, and I still never forget these lessons. And that's what happens when we all come together and we tell our truth and we grow and we learn from it.
Yeah.
Life is a
Absolutely.
limited time offer.
Yep. Well, you're certainly an inspiration to a lot of people in the community, in the rock community, and just out there who are fans of your band. But like I said, the comments that are coming through are, you're a really great leader and voice for people out there who are feeling those ways, and you're the amount of like thumbs up and people that really
Yeah.
appreciate you're inspirational. Like it's really awesome to see that. And
I'm just a regular guy. That's what they told me. Like I had this guy who I knew who was sober a long time, and when I was first trying to get sober, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, he's like, I don't want to be. I was like, I don't know how to ask for help. I don't want to bother anybody. And he was like, look, man, it's just one homeless guy showing another homeless guy where the free bread is. Like, it's not a big deal. And that's the principle of how we help each other. It's like, if you have trouble accepting help, it's like, it's just free bread. Just
right.
chill. Like, just take the free bread. They bring it to
Yeah.
you in the restaurant, like, eat it. If you're hungry, eat the bread. If you
Right.
need help, take the help. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's awesome, and it's certainly appreciated and certainly welcome in the community, especially with everything that's going on. So we've been talking for like an hour, so I'm gonna let you go. And
All right.
thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Good luck. We certainly hope to see you here in Detroit as soon as possible. We'll keep our fingers crossed that we start concerts up again. But in the meantime, stay safe. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks. Talk to you soon. See you guys soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.